Yesterday, we learned that former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio was convicted of criminal contempt. So now we're getting some insight from a defense attorney. Jason Lamm has been watching this case closely for quite a few years now. Jason, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Scott. Good morning, Olivia. I mean, there was so much news in Washington yesterday, and of course, peanut butter in Alabama, but this is a big deal when an elected sheriff gets convicted of a crime.
Yeah, it really is. And this morning, the sheriff is saying that he's going to appeal this case. On what grounds would he appeal, and what are the chances that something like that would ever overturn the conviction?
Well, I think it's safe to say that after every criminal conviction, there will be an appeal. The difference is we, the taxpayers, will continue to pay for the sheriff's legal representation. Probably the biggest issue, Scott, is whether or not Arpaio was entitled to a jury trial. And he actually tried to raise that very same issue prior to going to trial, and he actually took it to the U.S. Supreme Court. They gave him a big thumbs down. So to answer your question, how successful will his appeal likely be? Probably not very, because if it was an issue that the court was interested in, they would have given him the jury trial already.
So who would look at the appeal, and how long might that take?
Well, because we are in the Ninth Circuit, any appeals from district court, which is essentially the federal trial court in Phoenix, go to the Ninth Circuit, and that's based in San Francisco. And, of course, the first thing that has to happen is transcripts need to be prepared. Then lawyers write the briefs. So I think it's easily a year until the appeal is resolved. But, Scott, we have a sentencing coming up in early October 1st where Arpaio will learn his fate. That's an important next step that we can't just jump over.
So they're tossing around the possibility of a jail sentence. On azfamily.com, we did a little poll, and I think 5,300 people said yes to a jail sentence, and 3,000 said no. What are the chances that would ever happen?
Well, I appreciate the poll reflecting emotion and sentiment towards the sheriff, but the reality is he has no criminal record. This is a misdemeanor. He's 85 years old, and he's 85 years old, if my third point wasn't clear. No, he's not going to jail. He'll get a fine, maybe some community service, really not much. This is simply a symbolic black mark on the end of his legacy as the Maricopa County Sheriff.
So does this conviction open up any civil litigation possibilities?
Well, there's already been civil litigation involving the ACLU, and frankly, that's what spurned the criminal contempt charge, where the judge deliberately and willfully violated another judge's order to stop arbitrary enforcement based solely on racial profiling. That's what got us here in the first place. But this is purely criminal at this point. It's Arpaio bearing the repercussions of his actions. But I'll tell you what, I think it's far from over. It's not the last we've heard from him.
I did talk to the sheriff by phone yesterday, and he said that he was disappointed, but he wants to talk, but he can't right now because he didn't want anything to be used against him. And many believe it was that video on Fox that did him in, right?
Well, I think Judge Bolton's decision, it's about 14 pages, cites a number of different statements that he made to the media and other sources. And I can't go through them all, but the bottom line is he told everybody he's above the law, he is not going to change. So, yeah, it's his own words that did him in.
Jason Lamm, we appreciate your insight today. And, of course, it's like you mentioned, it's something that we'll be following from here on out until it's over. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. We'll see you soon.
Okay, sounds good.